Hello friends and welcome to the lecture on treatment of wastewater sewage. Objectives of our study are definition of sewage, that is wastewater, to understand the need for treating the wastewater, to get an insight about characteristics and some parameters of wastewater, to know about the whole process of conventional wastewater treatment. Lastly, to study about the importance of disinfection of treated water. Water is vital to the existence of all living organisms, but this valued resource is increasingly being threatened as human populations grow and demand more water of high quality for domestic purposes and economic activities. Among the various environmental challenges of that India is facing this century, freshwater scarcity ranks very high. India, being an economy in transition, faces two problems. On the one hand, there is a lack of infrastructure, and on the other, an ever increasing urban population. This has thrown up two self-perpetuating problems, that is, shortage of water and sewage overload. Water supply, sanitation measures, and management of sewage and solid wastes cover only a fraction of the total urban population. There is a clear inequity and disparity between the public services received by inhabitants, depending on their economic strata. Slum dwellers have always received least attention from the civic authorities. The majority of towns and cities have no sewerage and sewage treatment services. Wastewater is not just sewage. All the water used in the home that goes down the drains or into the sewage collection system is wastewater. This includes water from baths, showers, sinks, dishwashers, washing machines, and toilets. Small businesses and industries often contribute large amounts of wastewater to sewage collection systems. In combined municipal sewage systems, water from storm drains is also added to the municipal wastewater stream. Wastewater is about 99% water by weight and is generally referred to as influent as it enters the wastewater treatment facility. Domestic wastewater is wastewater that comes primarily from individuals and does not generally include industrial or agricultural wastewater. At wastewater treatment plants, this flow is treated before it is allowed to be returned to the environment, lakes or streams. Dear students, now let us discuss about wastewater generation and its treatment. It's estimated that about 38,254 million litres per day of wastewater is generated in urban centres comprising class 1st cities and class 2nd towns having population of more than 50,000. Counting of more than 70% of total urban population. In view of population increase, demand of fresh water for all uses will become unmanageable. It is estimated that the projected wastewater from urban centres may cross 1,20,000 million litre per day by 2051 and that rural India will also generate not less than 50,000 million litre per day in a view of water supply designs for community supplies in rural areas. Central Pollution Control Board studies depict that there are 269 sewage treatment plants in India, of which only 231 are operational, and thus the existing treatment capacity is just 21% of the present sewage generation. There is a need to plan strategies and give thrust to policy giving. Equal weightage to augmentation of supplied water as well as development of wastewater treatment facilities, recycling, recovery recharging and storage. Now, let's discuss about characteristics of urban wastewater. Urban wastewater is characterized in terms of its physical, chemical and biological constituents. The more common analysis used to characterize wastewater entering and leaving a plant are biological oxygen demand, chemical oxygen demand, total suspended solids, pH, total phosphorus and lastly total nitrogen. Now the parameters by which wastewater is measured. Firstly, the biological oxygen demand, BOD. BOD is the amount of oxygen used by organisms where consuming organic matter in a wastewater sample. It's possible to assess the performance of a wastewater treatment plant by measuring the BOD of the inflow and the outflow. Many factors can influence this test, such as temperature of incubation, dilution rate, nitrification, toxic substances, nature of bacterial seed and presence of anaerobic organisms. Now, chemical oxygen demand. The COD tests use the oxidizing agent potassium dichromate to oxidize organic matter in the sample. The test is extensively used because it takes less time than other tests such as BOD, which takes 5 days. The COD test does not, however, differentiate between biodegradable and non-biodegradable organic matter. For municipal wastewater, it is generally possible to establish a relationship between COD and BOD. Once a correlation has been established, the COD test can be a very useful indicator for the operation and control of the plant. Total suspended solids, also termed as TSS. TSS is the sum of the organic and inorganic solid concentrations and can be subdivided into suspended solids, organic solids, inorganic solids and lastly colloidal suspended solids. Firstly, the suspended solids. Suspended solids represent those solids that are in suspension in the water, generally comprised of 70% organic and 30% inorganic solids, and can be removed by physical or mechanical means. Secondly, organic solids. Organic solids form about 50% of solids present in urban wastewater derived from the waste products of animal and vegetable life. Sometimes also called the combustible fraction or volatile solids, as these can be driven off by high temperature. Inorganic solids. These substances are inert and are not subject to decay, and these include sand, gravel, silt and lastly the colloidal suspended solids. These refer to the solids that are not truly dissolved and yet do not settle readily. They tend to refer to organic and inorganic solids that are rapidly decayed. Now about the pH. This is the concentration of hydrogen ions in the solution and indicates the level of acidity or alkalinity of an aqueous solution. If the pH of wastewater is outside the range of 5 to 10, there may be a considerable interference with biological processes. Now, total phosphorus. This parameter is normally divided into 3 fractions, namely orthophosphate, polyphosphate, organically bound phosphate. Total phosphorus analysis requires 2 steps: conversion of polyphosphates and organically bound phosphorus to dissolved orthophosphate and colorimetric determination of the dissolved orthophosphate. In instances where phosphorus is a growth limiting nutrient, the discharge of wastewater containing phosphorus may stimulate the growth of vegetation in the water body. Lastly, the total nitrogen. This refers to the sum of measurements of total oxidized nitrogen, that is nitrate and nitrite, and total Geldahl nitrogen, that is ammonia and organic nitrogen. This parameter is a growth limiting nutrient in marine environments, and a limit is specified in urban wastewater treatment regulations for discharge to sensitive water bodies. Now the BOD is to nitrogen is to phosphorus ratio. In order to operate satisfactorily, microorganism requires a balanced diet. This is normally achieved by maintaining the level of BOD is to nitrogen is to phosphorus in the wastewater at about the ratio of 100 is to 5 is to 1. Domestic sewage is not normally deficit in these elements, but industrial effluents may be, and this can lead to a nutrient deficiency in the inflow to a plant. Now, let us talk about Conventional wastewater treatment processes. Conventional wastewater treatment consists of a combination of physical, chemical and biological processes and operations to remove solids, organic matter and sometimes nutrient from wastewater. Firstly, the preliminary treatment. The objective of preliminary treatment is the removal of coarse solids and other large materials often found in raw wastewater. Removal of these materials is necessary to enhance the operation and management of subsequent treatment units. Preliminary treatment operations typically include coarse screening, grit removal, etc. Now, the primary treatment. The objective of primary treatment is the removal of soluble organic and inorganic solids by sedimentation and the removal of materials that will float, that is scum, by skimming. Secondary treatment. The objective of secondary treatment is the further treatment of effluent from primary treatment to remove the residual organics and suspended solids. In most cases, secondary treatment follows primary treatment and involves the removal of biodegradable dissolved and colloidal organic matter using aerobic biological treatment processes. Aerobic biological treatment is performed in the presence of oxygen by aerobic microorganisms, principally bacteria, that metabolize the organic matter in the wastewater, thereby producing the more microorganisms and inorganic end products, principally carbon dioxide, ammonia and water. Several aerobic biological processes are used for secondary treatment, differing primarily in the manner in which oxygen is supplied to the microorganisms and in the rate at which organisms metabolize the organic matter. Common high-rate processes include the activated sludge processes, trickling filters or biofilters, oxidation ditches, and rotating biological contractors. A combination of two of these processes in series, for example, biofilter followed by activated sludge, is sometimes used to treat municipal wastewater containing a high concentration of organic material from industrial sources. Now, activated sludge process. The common suspended growth process used for municipal wastewater treatment is the activated sludge process. The municipal wastewater treatment is the biochemical oxygen demand removal. The removal of BOD is done by a biological process such as the suspended growth treatment process. The biological process is an aerobic process and takes place in the aeration tank in which the wastewater is aerated with oxygen. By creating good conditions, bacteria will grow fast. The growth of bacteria creates flocs and gases. These flocs are removed by a secondary clarifier. In the activated sludge process, the dispersed growth reactor is an aeration tank or basin containing and suspension of wastewater and microorganisms, that is the mixed liquor. The content of the aeration tank are mixed vigorously by aeration devices which also supply oxygen to the biological suspension. Hydraulic retention time in the aeration tanks usually range from 3 to 8 hours but can be higher with high BOD wastewaters. Following the aeration step, the microorganisms are separated from the liquid by sedimentation and the clarified liquid is secondary effluent. A portion of the biological sludge is recycled to the aeration basin to maintain a high mixed liquor suspension solid level. The remainder is removed from the process and sent to sludge processing to maintain a relatively constant concentration of microorganisms in the system. Now, the trickling filters. A trickling filter or biofilter consists of a basin or tower filled with support media such as stones, plastic shapes or wooden slates. Wastewater is applied intermittently or sometimes continuously over the media. Microorganisms become attached to the media and form a biological layer of fixed film. Organic matter in the wastewater diffuses into the film where it is metabolized. The thickness of the biofilm increases as new organisms grow. Periodically, Portions of the film slaw off the media. The slawed material is separated from the liquid in a secondary clarifier and discharged to sludge processing. Clarified liquid from the secondary clarifier is the secondary effluent, and a portion is often recycled to the biofilter to improve hydraulic distribution of wastewater over the filter. Rotating biological contractors. Rotating biological contractors are fixed film reactors to the biofilters in that organisms are attached to the support media. In the case of RBCs, the support media are slowly rotating discs that are partially submerged in flowing wastewater in the reactor. When coupled with a disinfection step, these processes can provide substantial but not complete removal of bacteria and viruses. However, they remove very little phosphorus, nitrogen, non-biodegradable organics or dissolved minerals. Now, let's get an insight about upflow anaerobic sludge blanket process. The UASB is an anaerobic process whilst forming a blanket of granular sludge and suspended in the reaction tank. Wastewater flows upwards through the blanket and is processed by the anaerobic microorganisms. The upward flow combined with the setting action of gravity suspends the blanket with the aid of flocculants. The blanket begins to reach maturity at around 3 months. Small sludge granules begin to form whose surface area, which is covered in aggregations of bacteria. In the presence of any support matrix, the flow conditions create a selective environment in which only those microorganisms capable of attaching to each other survive and proliferate. The fine granular sludge blanket acts as a filter to prevent the solids in the incoming wastes to flow through as the liquid part does. Biochemical activities in UASB digesters comprise of bacterial actions which have 3 phases and they occur in this sequence. Firstly, hydrolysis or solubilization. The first phase takes 10 to 15 days, and until the complex organics are solubilized, they cannot be absorbed into the cells of bacteria where they are degraded by the endoenzymes. Secondly, acidogenesis or acetogenesis. The result from stage 1 is utilized by a second group of organisms to form organic acids. Lastly, the methanogenesis. The methane producing or methanogenic anaerobic bacteria then use the product from the second stage to complete the decomposition process. Waste stabilization ponds. Wastewater stabilization pond technology is one of the most important natural methods for wastewater treatment. Waste stabilization ponds are mainly shallow, man-made basins comprising a single or several series of anaerobic, facultative or maturation ponds. Firstly, the anaerobic pond. These units are the smallest of the series. Commonly, they are 2 to 5 meter deep and receive high organic load equivalent to 100 gram BOD cubic meter per day. These high organic loads produce strict anaerobic conditions throughout the pond. In general terms, anaerobic pond function much like open septic tank and work extremely well in warm climates. A properly designed anaerobic pond can achieve around 60% BOD removal at 20 degrees Celsius. Facultative ponds. These ponds are of 2 types, primary facultative ponds and secondary facultative ponds. Primary facultative ponds receive raw wastewater and secondary facultative ponds receive the settled wastewater from the first stage, usually the effluent from anaerobic ponds. Facultative ponds are designed for BOD removal on the basis of a low organic surface load to permit the development of an active algal population. This way, algae generate the oxygen needed to remove soluble BOD. The concentration of algae in an optimally performing facultative pond depends on organic load and temperature, but is usually in the range of 500 to 2000 milligrams chlorophyll per liter. Maturation ponds. These ponds receive the effluent from a facultative pond, and the size and number depend on the required bacteriological quality of the final effluent. Maturation ponds are shallow, 1.0 to 1.5 meter, and show less vertical stratification, and the entire volume is well oxygenated throughout the day. The main removal mechanisms, especially of pathogens and fecal coliforms, are ruled by algal activity in the synergy with photooxidation. On the other hand, maturation ponds achieve only a small removal of BOD, but their contribution to nitrogen and phosphorus removal is more significant. Aerated lagoons. The mechanical biological purification of wastewater takes place in one or more aerated lagoons according to the size of the plant, which are followed by a non-aerated sedimentation and polishing pond. The sewage coming from the canalization is normally led directly into the first aerated lagoon without mechanical purification. Liable to putrefy, matter should mainly be stabilized by aerobic processes to avoid odors and digested sludge coming up to the water surface. The oxidation ponds. Oxidation ponds are also known as stabilization ponds or lagoons. They are used for simply secondary treatment of sewage effluents. Within an oxidation pond, heterotrophic bacteria degrade organic matter in the sewage to produce cellular material and minerals. The production of these support the growth of algae in the oxidation pond. Fluidized bed reactor. Aerobic fluidized bed reactors, FBRs, are used as a new technology in wastewater treatment. An aerobic fluidized bed reactor with granulated activated carbon as carrier material can be operated under different conditions, including batch loading, semi-continuous loading and continuous loading. The basic idea behind the FBR is to have a continuously operating non-clogging biofilm reactor which requires no backwashing, has low head loss and high specific biofilm surface area. The FBR employs fixed film principle and makes the treatment process more user friendly because it does not require sludge recycle, that is synonymous with conventional activated sludge process. Lastly, the sequential batch reactor. In this process, the raw sewage free from debris and grit is taken up for the biological treatment to remove organic matter, nitrogen and phosphorus. In this form, the sequences of fill, aeration, settle and decant are consecutively and continuously operated in the same tank. No secondary clarifier system is required to concentrate the sludge in the reactor. The system selected is capable of achieving firstly biodegradation of organics present in the wastewater by extended aeration process, secondly oxidation of sulfides in the wastewater, thirdly co-current nitrification and denitrification of ammonical nitrogen in the aeration zone, and lastly removal of phosphorus. Now the tertiary treatment. Tertiary wastewater treatment is employed when specific wastewater constituents which cannot be removed by secondary treatment must be removed. The treatment processes are necessary to remove nitrogen, phosphorus, additional suspended solids, refractory organics, heavy metals and dissolved solids. Because advanced treatment usually follows high rate secondary treatment, it is sometimes referred to as tertiary treatment. However, advanced treatment processes are sometimes combined with primary or secondary treatment or used in a place of secondary treatment. For example, overload flow treatment of primary effluent. Now, about the disinfection of this treated water. Disinfection using chemical and physical methods is the final step in drinking water purification. The finished water is disinfected, often with chlorine. It kills the remaining microorganisms in the water, some of which be pathogenic. It is very efficient oxidizing, bleaching and disinfecting agent. A principal advantage of chlorination over other forms of disinfection is that a chlorine residual is created that can protect the treated water after leaving the treatment plant. Ozonation is another form of disinfection. Ozonation involves the passage of ozone through water. Ozone is a very powerful disinfectant that is even more effective against cysts and viruses than chlorine, and it has the added advantage of having no taste or odor problems. Lastly, I would like to conclude by saying that there is a need to generate water from all available resources, including wastewater, by recycling, reuse, recharging and storages.